So, good evening, Miss Cassie. Thank you for taking time to join us today. We really appreciate your willingness to share your experiences and insight with us today. We would like to ask you several questions about the National Education Philosophy, FPN, and the Teacher Education Philosophy, FPG, and how these philosophies influence teaching practices in the classroom. There are three of us conducting the interview today. I am Carolyn.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Rahimi,
And my
teacher Casey. Huh? Okay. Okay.
and my name is Ahmad Shahid.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Before we begin with the questions, Miss Cassie, could you please introduce yourself to us?
Hi, I'm Miss Cassie, or in my school, I'm known as Miss Batsha. I've been a teacher for the past 16 years. This is my 16th academic year. I don't teach in government school. I've been teaching in international school, Cambridge syllabus. I work in IB, International Baccalaureate, but they are all under the UK system, education system. So I'm here to be part of your interview. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay. Um,
Okay. Can we start with the question? Teacher Casey,
Yeah,
are you
sure.
ready?
Yes.
Okay. Our first question is, could you explain to us what the National Education Philosophy, or FPN, means to you?
Okay. FPN means to me as a whole. It's a holistic. So the goal is we should produce students not just being academically smart. So example for maths, it's not just like step by step you must memorize. It's about the critical thinking skills, the good values, the emotional ability to explain something confidently, the ability to debate whether which theory works and why something doesn't work. So and just beyond maths in the classroom, it can also be outside. So which means how do we carry out this maths beyond the classroom? So not just focusing on students who are lower in ability, but how do we focus on students who are also higher in ability? So as a whole.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. It clearly highlights the importance of holistic development in education. This
Yes.
brings us to
Hold
our
on.
second question.
There is also
Okay.
another important thing for me to point out. Even though international school, we use Cambridge syllabus, but I believe,
Cambridge.
the National Education Philosophy, which is the FPN, aligns perfectly because at the end of the day, all the philosophy in education, our goal is to produce a holistic student.
Stick student.
Okay. Okay, thank you. For the second question is, how does the teacher education philosophy, or FPG, guide your teaching practice?
Okay, so the FPG is basically a guideline for teachers, how I look at it, for teachers to achieve the FPN. So what can I do? What can we work on? It's like a guideline. How do I be professional? How It's basically like a lifelong learning for teachers. We have to continuously update our teaching skills or upgrade our system depending on the how modern, where we are working in, different situation. So example, in my classroom, I try, because math is a very difficult subject. It's easy for most students to hate. So the first thing that I try to work on is to ensure students are comfortable with me. So I feel that's the first thing. They should feel comfortable with me, talk to me. So whenever they are having problem, they feel comfortable enough to approach me, to ask for question. Okay. And then other than that, my school, they provide CPDs every Friday. So which means teachers are basically updating ourselves. What are the new things? How can we improve ourselves? What are the problems we are facing? How can we overcome with these issues? So like I say, FPG is basically a guide for teachers and teachers as a lifelong learners.
That's very meaningful, and it shows the importance of establishing trust with your students in order for a smooth learning journey. Um, it also shows how the philosophy helps teachers maintain professionalism and dedication in their work. In your opinion, what is the main difference between the National Education Philosophy (FPN) and the Teacher Education Philosophy (FPG)?
Okay, the main difference is that FPN is focused on the students. The FPN is how we develop the students, the development of the students, whereas FPG is about the quality of teachers. So, which means FPG is like I said, a guideline, how teachers should conduct themselves effectively to achieve our FPN goal. So what are things we want for the students? How are we going to work on it? So in simple terms, FPN tells us what kind of students we want them to become. And FPG is how are we going to work on ourselves as teachers to ensure that we achieve that goal.
Okay, thank you, Teacher Casey. That means FPN focus on the student, and then FPG focus on qualities of the teachers, right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation. It's helped us understand how both philosophies support each other. Our fourth question, how do you apply the National Education Philosophy, FPN, in your daily teaching?
So like I said, I teach maths, so I will just try to relate to maths. For example, problem solving tasks. I encourage students to explain their thinking. So we have like every test or every exam, even a regular class, we have something called MTR, which is mathematical thinking and reasoning. So that will be a very simple question, but you'll be surprised to see that students know the fact, but they have no idea why is it like that. So for like recently, we were learning about a formula for area of a rectangle. So we realized that it's the same formula for rhombus, parallelogram, basically all the shapes with four sides. And students know that. But when I ask them, why is it the same? Why is it the same formula for different shape? And they don't know, they have no idea. So which means instead of I explain to them, I give them paper, I give them different four-sided shape, and I ask them to come up with a theory, carry out the experiment. So basically it's going out of the usual norm in maths class. So it's not just step by step and we memorize and that's it. It's more about how students work on it. Okay, and also example, if I teach ratio and proportion, instead of just asking them to memorize that it's similar to fraction, I go beyond that, which means I ask them to create recipe book. And then we actually have a session, little chefs. So they actually carry out their recipe book, they carry out their cooking. And then you see the pride, the joy on their face that, you know, like, oh, I finally did it. So, and then they have to come up with a conclusion. It's like a plenary, we call it, the reflection of their learning. So that's one of it. And another thing is that the most important thing I feel as teachers, quite often we prioritize students with lower ability. So which means it can be anything, it can be academically, confidence, thinking skills, or just someone who's very quiet. So we tend to work too much on them, focus on them, trying to, you know, take them out from their shell, try to work with them, try to like, like example, I make them as a mentor for a lower level students. But quite often we forget about the higher achiever students who are going beyond. So which means FPN in my learning, in my teaching, I focus on both. So which means those who need help, I try to help them. I try to make them as important as the ones who are already going beyond the syllabus. So the ones who are going beyond, they probably will go for like international competitions. The ones who are not, they are probably also doing competition, but probably they are given small tasks, like organizing a competition. So they feel equally important on both sides. Another thing as teachers as well, I feel this is also important. We collaborate with teachers from a different international school. So which means we have our, like they go there, we have like a collaboration, we call it. So it's not just for teachers, also for students. So it can be as simple as just a friendly match, or sometimes just a teacher sharing sessions. So we go, we talk, and then we see how we can improve our teaching. Yeah, I hope I'm not saying too much.
Okay, that's a wonderful example of applying.
And I believe that when the students feel comfortable and supported, they will naturally just bloom. Yeah.
Okay. Next question is building on what you mentioned earlier. Could you give an example of how the teacher education philosophy, FPG, has influenced your classroom lesson planning?
Okay. So lesson plans in international school, we have lesson plans for every single lessons. So when we design our lesson plan, we always ensure that our lesson plans are student-centered. So which means it's all about the student. Teachers only act as a facilitator. So we guide them, we push them. We are not the one who's feeding them with all the information and they're just sitting down doing nothing. No, we make them be responsible of their learning. Okay. I think I've mentioned a few of it in the previous question. So I'll just add on. At the end of the lesson, we always have plenary. So I'm not sure what is plenary called in locally. Are you all aware what is plenary? You are muted.
Plenary.
Maybe something like a reflection?
Plenary is not, it can be a reflection, but it's usually how do we ensure that students have learned whatever we taught them for the day? So which means
Like
it can be
learning
as
outcomes.
learning outcome. Is it successful? Okay, so which means it can be simple things as a pair and share, think two ways, or it can be sometimes I don't even give the objective of the lesson. I teach them, and then I say, what do you think the objective of this lesson for the whole day? So they have to come up with their own objective to see that, and then I see, does it match with mine? So did I achieve my objective? So which means that is something that we always have. And then we also have AFL, assessment for learning. So every task we do, we are actually assessing them without them knowing. Yeah. And then I think this way also makes teachers, or encourage teachers to be more organized, focus on what we want students to experience.
That's very helpful. It shows how thoughtful planning can support effective learning. Since we spoke about teaching practices, we would like to ask, how do you reflect on your teaching to align with the national education philosophy and also the teacher education philosophy?
Okay, there's some, in our lesson plan, every day, we have something called reflection. So I'm sure it's something that all of you have practiced in your previous, while you were doing your assignment. So it's a reflection that we reflect on every of our lesson. And the thing about my school, what we learn is that our reflection shouldn't be about what went wrong with me. Shouldn't be about like, oh, what did I do good? What did I not do good? It's supposed to be about the students. Did the students learn? They did not. Why they did not? How can they improve? So which means based on whatever I answer, I have to adjust based on that answer. So which means, example, if today I'm teaching fraction example and students did not understand, they cannot figure out what I'm talking about. So how can I improve? So then, I'll say, okay, probably next lesson, I should include more of manipulatives, or maybe I should use video. Maybe I should use games, like you adjust according to the current generation, because I believe every batch of students you have, they're different. Some batch are just easy. Some batch, they just prefer games and, because they cannot focus. So which means you just adjust according to the students. The students should not be adjusting based on how we are. We should be adjusting based on the learners that we have. And also another thing is that differentiated learning. So we have like the lower average, what do I do? So we adjust our activities, our questions. Yeah, that's all.
Oh, that means we adjust our teaching method, right?
Yes. So which means the students should be the priority. And then we adjust ourselves on how we are going to achieve that holistic student, how we are going to make our lessons different, but must be successful according to the learners we have. Because it's not one lesson plan that works for 16 years. So in the past 16 years, I have to always change myself. Some days in class, I'm like a clown because those are the type of students I have and I have to entertain them. Some of the students are just, like no talk. They just want to focus. So then I'll be focusing and, learning with them. So I have different personalities depending on the students I have.
Okay, thank you, Teacher Casey. That means we adjust our teaching method based on student need, right? Okay, that's a great best practice, teacher. Reflection is indeed for continuous improvement in teaching. Our last question, teacher. How do FPN and FPG contribute to developing students intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and physically?
Okay. When you look at it, both of these things, even though one is focusing on teacher, one is focusing on students, but when you look at it as a whole, both of these philosophies actually focus on students. At the end of it, the main goal is we want the best student, the holistic student, the ones who is not just academically good, also emotionally, everything, the one that you mentioned, intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, physically. So they must be like everything. So which means both philosophies are actually related to one another. So if the child is intellectually good, then like example for maths, they're able to explain why some formula works that way. They're able to think beyond the box. It's not just structured learning. Especially it's quite difficult when maths is a very, fact-based subject. It's yes, yes, no, no. So which means it's difficult for me to actually make them think beyond the box. So if they are able to do that, then that means we are already working closer to the holistic student goal. And then emotionally, it can be very simple. When we make, like I said, the first thing I work on is students feel comfortable with me. When I'm calm, the students are also calm. When I don't scold them or raise my voice, they are comfortable with me, which means emotionally, the classroom feels safe. They are safe to make mistake because they know I will not be scolding them. They will not get like a consequences of, what if I get it wrong? So it's just a mistake, and they take mistake as a learning process. Okay, spiritually and morally, I believe this one comes from teachers because students spend more time with us than with their parents. So which means we should be the role model. We should set good examples. So the way we talk, the way we respond, our tone matters because they will basically imitate us. They will follow whatever we do. And they, especially when they look up on us, because they will feel that, oh, but you said it. So when we set a good tone, everything is perfect.
That means they observe us lah, huh?
Yes. Yeah. So the way we respond, the way we talk, and you'll be surprised to know students actually react differently with each teachers. Yeah. So sometimes in my class, I see them well behaved, but then there's the same class that I can see that they are different with different teachers. Okay. And then physically, in maths, it's not just like learning. So physically, how I make it is like we go outside, like, we go for the little chef cooking. We build towers outside. So which means we go out, or I can do simple things as just paste questions. So they run around, they search for around the whole schools, so it's not just maths, it can also be for other subjects. So sometimes I collaborate with the PE department. So we actually have activities like, the fun activities that you play when you were young. You take the sponge, put water, you run and you squeeze inside the bottle. It's like very popular sports day activities. You dip the sponge in water and then you run and then you squeeze inside the bottle. Well, surprisingly, that can be a maths activity. So we collaborate with PE teachers and see how much volume do you have in the water, in the bottle.
Yes.
So what is the capacity? What is the volume you have? Why do you think the other team got more water than you? Because sponge matters, technique matters. So we can actually work with other teachers and everything to achieve both of these philosophies. Yeah.
Basically, professional collaboration
Yes,
to achieve
because,
holistic learning. Yes.
because the goal is just not for students to get A in exams. It's basically getting A in everything. Everything they do, they must be prepared for the real life challenges.
Yes. Agree on this.
Do you have any
Am I
questions
sorry?
for me?
Yes.
Any question?
Okay.
No more?
Thank you for explaining how both philosophies support students' overall development. I really love your insight, and also thank you so much for sharing valuable insights and experiences with us today. Your responses have helped us better understand how the national education philosophy and teacher education philosophy are applied in classroom teaching. Back to you, Rahimi.
Okay. Thank you, teacher. Miss Cassie, right? Okay. We truly appreciate your time, your cooperation. Thank you once again for joining this interview session. We hope you will have a great day ahead. Thank you, Teacher Cassie, once again.
Oh, no problem. I'm happy to help. So in case you guys need any help with teaching, you can ask me or anything. Because I've been
Yes.
through whatever you've been through. So right now,
Yes. Thank
just
you
a
so
few
much for
years
the
ahead
support.
of y'all.
Yes. Not few years, you're like 17 years ahead of us. But thank you so much. Really, it was such an enjoyable interview. Like I learned a lot. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank